Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent. Hey guys, welcome back. Why should anybody else be real with you if you can't be real with yourself? All right, that's the question that we're going to discuss on today's episode. Now, many of you are familiar with my hip-hop background, and for those of you that haven't, I'll give you a bit of a run-through, but basically, as the title sort of suggests, it's a very sort of hip-hop, sounding title on today's episode. Now, when I was younger, I absolutely fell in love with hip-hop. Just from the earliest point I can recall, being a kid in the early 80s and seeing Rocksteady Crew dance blew my mind. When I got onto train to travel between capital cities in Australia when I was a little kid, and we didn't have a lot of money, and we could never imagine affording a flight, and I saw graffiti down the train tracks for the first time, and it was like looking at giant life-size comic books, and it just blew my mind, and I was like, yes, this is my thing. So very much that was just, I believe everyone has something that speaks to them, and for me, it was definitely hip-hop culture. Now, over time and developing that and learning about who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, and putting those sort of puzzle pieces together when you're, in your teen years, I decided, I wanted to be a famous rapper. I wanted to make music and tell stories and share lessons and things that make an impact and change people's lives. So that was my world. That was everything, right? That was all it was about. And coming up through that through the ranks in that culture. Especially when I did. I don't feel it is the same these days, but through that era of that sort of early and mid 90s hip hop into sort of the 2000s and beyond, integrity mattered. You were held accountable. You understood there was a standard, there was a level, right? And you had to rise to the occasion. And one of my favorite rappers, for those of you if you don't know, is Nas. I'm not sure if you can see, I have his face tattooed on my arm here. And I don't know if he was the first to say it, but he's, where I got it from was, real recognize real. And to me, that understanding ties into what today's episode is. If you can't be real with yourself, how can you expect anyone else to be real with you, right? And when you are real, people that for the sake of the discussion, real in the sense meaning authentic. Okay, so if you're real, you're authentic, you have integrity. People that are also real and authentic and have integrity notice. They understand, they see, because, as Nas says, real recognize real. So that was my foundation. So much of that, and from my family, my background, my mother was, a no bullshit woman. There was, you said what you meant. That was what it is, and if you said it, it has to be truthful. So that was my foundation from the start. I was all centered around integrity, authenticity, and being real with yourself, right? So when I wanted to become this, famous rapper and make an impact on the world, one of the most challenging things being in Australia and being white, basically, at that time, this was like, pre-Eminem, people, it wasn't even sort of considered. Like, every white rapper was just like, almost like a cliche or corny, you know what I mean? Almost like a gimmick. And Australia is very much behind America in the sense of innovation, potentially just sort of exposure to different things and timelines of a lot of that's changed now, being global and being connected with the internet, and the whole world sort of sees and understands a little bit better than we did, understanding each other better than we did when I was a kid. So especially when I was a kid, it was almost like literally we were 20 years behind America. So it took a little bit of time for things to trickle down to the land down under, right? And it was very much like you were considered like there was something wrong with you. Like I remember being at school and wearing my hat backwards, and other kids that were like sports jocks, we call them jocks, like sort of the sort of star sport players, right? They will give you grief, like nonstop. You'd be like, oh, look at this little homeboy, this little wigger. Like that was the norm. Like you were like, there was something wrong with you. They were like, why would you do this? It didn't sort of gel very well with the Australian way of life and culture. And Australia has exceptional hip hop talent across all the elements. Like, don't get me wrong, it can compete on that global level. Some of the best graffiti writers, in the world. Some of the best b-boys and b-girls in the world. Even down to like the MCs and rappers that don't get exposure at that level and that capacity, well and truly can compete on the level of the skills that are required to be considered some of the best in the world. And so I faced a lot of flack, a lot of people give me grief, and like you'd be walking down the street and it was constant, and someone would like make some smart ass comment or have something to say about your appearance. It very much wasn't an accepted thing, right, to be a rapper, and it didn't matter to me what other people thought, because I knew that was what was important to me, and I was real with myself, right? And I can tell you stories where we'd go to like nightclubs to perform to b-boy, to breakdance, or to rap, or put on some sort of show, some sort of entertainment for the evening, and people would just like dismiss you right away, like there's something wrong with you. You're just a loser. You're like some clown, and then they'd see us perform and they'd lose their minds and be so impressed because they saw we were authentic and we were good at what we did, and we dedicated so much time and effort to improving and becoming, great at the craft we'd chosen. Like this my crew, my group of close friends that I grew up with, and it was fascinating watching people change like on a dime. Like I'd been to shows with other friends and tried to pick up girls, and the girls were just like not interested at all, just like whatever. And then half an hour later we'd be like owning the dance floor and doing like head spins and all sort of crazy aerial flips and acrobatics and whatnot, and then these girls would lose their minds and couldn't get enough of you. It's mental how people judge you based on your appearance, and until they understand that that's really who you are, right? You're being real about it, that's who you are, whether they get it or not. Once they see that authenticity, it's undeniable, right? It's just you can't front on someone who's got skills and is good at what they do. The other, aside from the sort of way that people would perceive you and talk to you or treat you, the hardest thing also to face internally, like I had this little voice in my head telling me, you're not good enough. You're nowhere near the world class. Deep down, you know it. You're not good enough. You're not as good as American rappers, like why would people want to listen to you, right? And none of that benefits or is positive self-talk, but it's important to know the value in that, right? So this is what I'm getting at with every experience and interaction and moment you face or go through has elements of value or grains of gold that you can take from and learn and utilize to move yourself forward and progress in life. So I could easily sit here and tell you that I shouldn't have talked negatively to myself, but today what I want to go through with you guys about being real is the value in that voice and how to utilize that. Now, if I was being real with myself, there's elements of truth in that, and I think deep down I knew that I wasn't there yet, or at that level that I knew I needed to get at to achieve what I was trying to achieve. And if I was real with myself and understood what interpreting that voice in my head, correctly, was actually trying to give me, I can utilize that and help it, use it to assist me to grow into the person that I need to be to achieve the goals that I'm trying to achieve. So aside from the timing and the location being that I'm trying to be a famous rapper in Australia, which has pretty much never occurred, and the closest thing that I guess you could say we have is Iggy Azalea, and like, what's your standard? Do you know what I mean? Like, she's not considered like a rapper, like in the purest form, in the sense of matching a sort of standard or a level that's been set by masters that came before her. Right? Now, power to the girl. She's done her thing and she's, followed her dreams and made it. And I support anyone who can do that and wants to do that and commits to it and makes it happen. Absolutely. But in the sense of what I'm talking about, there's no one from Australia that, unless someone's just recently come out that I'm unaware of, that is on that level or respected or considered or has migrated to the States and been like, on the level, shall we say. So if I had have taken that voice and understood really, like, that voice was there to help me. It wasn't like the whole doubtful thing, and this is a key thing. It's important, I think, for a lot of people to factor this in, and because a lot of times you're often told that don't talk down on yourself, and you shouldn't. Absolutely, you shouldn't. Negative self-talk doesn't help you at all. But there's a difference, and understanding how to identify when something is destructive as negative self-talk, and then something is constructive as a metric or a voice of reality of what the situation is, and how you can use that to shift the situation to what you want it to be, right? So I wasn't really interpreting, I was just shutting that voice out, because at the time I thought that's what you do. You just you don't listen to that. No good comes from me saying, oh, I'm not good enough. But if I was being real with myself, deep down I knew there was truth in that, and that's why it was coming to my mind. That was why my instinct or inner voice was telling me this, so that I could use it, because I have a very serious, large ambition to take on something like that hasn't been done. You're innovating that, or trying to pioneer that sort of step from where you are to where you want to be. And I should have taken that voice and used it as a way to determine what my next steps were, right? So it's just to understand, to work harder and put more time into becoming better at my craft, and silence the voice. If I take the time and the effort and take what I'm hearing, I'm real with myself, I listen to it, I take it in, like constructive criticism, right? Self criticism of in a constructive manner. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. There's a reason why I don't want to feel those things. So how do I take what I'm hearing and thinking and processing in my mind, and use that to shift and put myself in the position where I can be, one of the best rappers in the world. So I approach this in a very I don't know if you guys can hear the kookaburras. Like, this is Australian as it gets. I'm here talking about trying to be a rapper, and I'm sitting here with like kookaburras going off in the background. Like, it's any minute, you may see a kangaroo jump across the screen. It wouldn't surprise me. And I could have used that to my advantage. So I just took it as, ignore that, don't listen to it. You're good at what you do. Keep doing more of what you're doing. And what I was doing wasn't building my own confidence that I could compete on that stage. And naturally, the more you do something, the better you get at it. But it's important to remember, practice has to be deliberate and correct. Right now, what do I mean by that? If you're a golfer, for example, and you're practicing your putting, but you have to improve, so you spend 2 hours every day practicing putting, but you're practicing with the wrong technique and the wrong form, and you're using incorrect club or putter rather. What do you think is the outcome of that? You're putting in tons of time and the effort required, but you're practicing in an incorrect and inefficient way that's going to deliver incorrect and inefficient results. So I didn't use that to my advantage, and hindsight is a wonderful thing. This is why I'm here talking to you, so you guys don't have to go through these same lessons and learn them the hard way. You can take from my mistakes and progress quicker. And I would just practice. I didn't have a plan. I knew I wanted to be here. I wanted to be a professional, famous rapper, and I knew that I had to work on my craft. So I just did heaps of that. Just worked on my craft, wrote rhymes every day, wrote songs, produced music, and got together with my friends and practiced, and that was kind of it. There was no, if I want to get here and I'm here now, what are the logical steps and the pathway, the roadmap to get me to where I want to be? None of that was planned out. So I was just, so I could say my actions didn't align with my plan, but I didn't really even have a plan. I just had I had a goal. So and it wasn't very thought out, and that's a huge weak link in the entire process here. And I can look back now that this is sort of removed, this stage of my life is sort of behind me, that I can look for the patterns and the puzzle pieces and where I made mistakes and errors, and I can learn from that, as I say, find those, nuggets of gold, those gems that I can take from that experience and not continue to make those same mistakes again now. So, and the furthest I went, like I remember going to, probably the only time that I really put some sort of, is the word concerted effort into getting some more traction with my rap career, and went to New York for maybe 10 or 12 days and sort of pretty much put together packages with one of my EP releases, and sort of some gifts and a bit of a press release into parcels, and then threw on like a high-vis vest and pretended I was a courier and went round to all the record labels and execs and delivered these packages of my music. And that was probably the extent, and sort of even that wasn't sort of so pre-planned. That was like a step in the right direction, but I didn't really have good follow up. Like I think of that now in a sales perspective. I didn't even follow up with these people to sort of get their thoughts on the music. Like I had this sort of false notion of reality that I was just going to get a phone call and be discovered, right? Absolutely, that was my game plan. And I think part of that is why too I had that voice in my head saying, you're not on that level. You're not good enough. You're not really at that caliber. And it wasn't so much that I necessarily wasn't there or couldn't reach it. My actions weren't reflecting, my plan or my desire. And when there's that misalignment between, your goals and ambitions and your actions, it's impossible to achieve them. It's only like 1/10 of the process to make the decision and decide and commit to the goal, and the rest of that is reverse engineering, backwards planning from where you want to be to where you are, so you can just take those natural steps. And it's easy in that sense, that fashion, to achieve something because you've mapped it out, you've laid out, and if you follow the actions that lead to the next step, it's only a matter of time and a logical sort of sequence for you to get there. So I didn't really have any real structure to how I was approaching this at all, and I think you can absolutely be discovered if you are an exceptional talent, and this is a good point to consider, like coming up in that hip hop sort of golden era. Was very much a massive fan of NBA basketball as well. And you often hear people talk or anecdotal stories around Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley at the time, two of the best players that there were in the league. And Jordan's thing was often that Barkley relied so heavily on his talent and didn't put enough hard work in, and that's why he never was considered one of the greats to the capacity that he truly could have been. Now, Charles Barkley is absolutely, one of all-time legends and greats of the game. But imagine what he could have been. Like could he have been like neck and neck with Jordan? Who knows? But that's what I'm getting at is I was doing the Charles Barkley thing. Now, I might not have had that natural talent or that thing that just people can't ignore you, or that what they call an X factor. Let's say for example, where you're so good at what you do that you will naturally be discovered because you can't help but be discovered because what you've got is just you've got it, right? But that's not the be all end all. I'd say more people that achieve any level of success or reach their goals in life are the ones that do the work. They say nothing works unless you do, right? So I should have, now looking back, put far more time and effort into the work required to put me in a position and put me in front of the right people and do everything within my power to be real with myself and get those opportunities, because opportunities very rarely, seldom fall on your lap. And if they do, it's just a perfect, alignment of luck and timing and place, where you are. And the thing that a lot of people, in my experience, don't really grasp is how easy it is to create opportunities for yourself. It's like something I learned from sales is you've just put in the effort. If you want to like get anything in life, you go after it with everything you have. You don't sort of focus just on the craft. Can you imagine if what's a good example? Can you imagine if Mother Teresa didn't tell anyone about her mission and go out and raise money and do everything within her power impact and change the world and make a difference in people's lives. If she just, had that good, kind heart and just prayed, and she prayed for 3, 4, 5 hours a day because she knew that was the right thing, and nothing would ever come of that. No one would know who she was. People's lives wouldn't be changed. No one would have donated money. No one would have helped her cause. Like, it has to be so much more structured and the effort put in, right? And that's me now being real with myself. Now that I have gone through and understood and learned from hindsight, it's just a different story to understand, like my approach now, how I would approach it versus how I did it at the time. And that's the wonder that comes from this, right? Ultimately, I've learned how to approach any endeavor now to maximize my potential for success. And I'm thankful that I was blessed with the right people to teach me and give me these lessons so that I can take from my past experiences, and even though at the time these things feel like failures, I can gain from them and learn from them and utilize and get something from my efforts, right? So I've got a whole new understanding of process because of the pain of failure that I learned from, right? And they say that, like, people, there's only sort of two directions. People either move away from pain or towards reward. That's the two ways that people are motivated. They're generally like, and they often say, like, for example, you offer someone, like, let's say if we stick with a basketball analogy, if you sink 3 pointers in a row, I'll give you $100, right? That's motivating because, you're excited. If I can get these 3 shots, I make $100. And if you flip it around and say to the person, if you don't make these 3 shots, I will take $100 from you. You'll lose $100. And that person then, that in the second instance, is motivated by, the wanting to avoid pain, right? The first one is moving towards the reward, move towards pleasure. The second instance is remove themselves and away from that pain. So it's a whole different ball game, understanding that and going through the experiences. And ultimately, I grew as a person and learned more about myself. So what I would like you guys to take away from the discussion today is the importance of being real with yourself. And once you own that and truly accept it and take it on board for the good, the bad, the ugly, and use it to your advantage, once people see that you're being real with yourself, they will have no choice but to be real with you too. Because it can't be overlooked. If you don't take yourself seriously and you don't believe in what you're doing and you're authentic, no one else is going to either. So one of those great lessons that I've learned in my life, you've got to be real with yourself if you expect others to be real with you. All right, guys, thank you so much for being a part of the Forever Better Academy podcast. My name is Wade Vincent. New episodes every Friday. If you like the content and you love to get in this personal development space and self-mastery, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification so you are notified every time that I release new videos and you don't miss any of the great content. And please let me know, what do you want to learn about? What do you like? What don't you like? Ultimately, I'm here to do this and share valuable content for you. So if it's not valuable to you, let me know and I will pivot and make something that is. All right, as always, who could you become? I want you to really consider that. Who could you become? It's up to you. Thank you again for watching and listening, and I will talk to you next week. All right, guys, have a great afternoon. See you later.